There we go. Hey guys, sorry for the boring background and shirt. I'm actually a little bit surprised that I'm making this because honestly, diet is not that big of a factor in making progress. It's a very big factor in staying alive. But unlike what you hear a lot of people say, where progress is all like 80% diet and 20% training or something like that, that's in fact not the case. It only really matters if it's bottlenecking your progress if you haven't figured it out for you. It's like if you're brand new to training and diet in the entire fitness world, yes, it will seem like a huge hurdle you need to get over and very difficult to learn that. But once you have it under wraps, there is not much you need to do. You learn what things you need to manipulate, what foods work for you, what methods of dieting work for you, and then you just let that run, tweak things as you need them, and it's all about the training and your program that really matter. Those are the big factors. So wasn't thinking of making one on diet this early, but between the fact that I both made a community poll where my option for my cut from 220 to 200 pounds to start the Bulking with Abs series was the top rated one, can't say I'm surprised, but also the fact that I wanted to start a series that involved a bulk. I figured a video demonstrating how I cut to make room for said bulk very applicable. So here we are, going to discuss diet. One of the first things I want to get out of the way very early, where I learned the most pivotal aspect that enabled me to be very successful with diets, was actually from a playlist on dieting from Renaissance Periodization. So I have that as a playlist on my YouTube homepage, so you can be accessed there. But also in this video, I'm going to try to make it accessible in as many areas as possible, like maybe pinned comment in the description. Especially watching that, especially the last few episodes talking about dieting and maintenance phases and long-term weight loss success, are what I am using and will use for this cut. So go watch that playlist. A lot of people's questions are answered there. In previous videos I've made where I directed people to that playlist, they got phenomenal value out of it. So I want to plug that list first. That's where I learned what I am using that I will be discussing in this video. So nothing I'm teaching you here is original, but if you want to learn it from me, that's fine. So what is discussed on that playlist, for one, is phases of cutting and maintenance. If you only have a small amount to lose, like 10 pounds, you can do that all in one go. But if you have a larger amount to lose, which in my case I did, where I let a bulk get out of control and I went way up to 220 pounds, and I want to get relatively lean for me in between 185, 190 pound range to have room for a proper slow bulk. That is way more than really is advised to be done in one go. And that playlist by RP gives good recommendations of generally dieting for more than 12 weeks in a single go, dieting at a rate faster than 1% of your body weight per week of weight loss, trying to lose more than 10% of your weight in a single dieting phase are all like the limit of recommendations. You know, you can go beyond that, but that's where you're going to start having lots of trouble and lots of diet fatigue. And some people, even reaching those limits is too much. So for me, what I did for this first cut is the first several weeks, I didn't track anything. I just did the low-hanging fruit, the easiest ways to eliminate calories. So eliminated or at least minimized liquid calories, reduce snacking, try to eat some more filling foods, just easy stuff, maybe for 3 or 4 weeks, unsure. I just did it, got rid of the first few pounds. So that way, the first time I actually weighed in for officially tracking, I weighed 214 pounds, and that began when I was actually weighing my food and being aware of exactly what my calories and all of that were. And that is when it began an 8-week official cutting cycle where everything was tracked, which I will be showing you later in the app I used, MacroFactor. Don't have any code or affiliate or sponsor or anything, it's just what I used. It is a paid only app, but I consider it amazing, but I'll show you that later so I can actually show you the data of what I tracked, the food I ate, and the other tools in there. So you'll get more of those details later. Hopefully I'll remember to timestamp it. So I finished that 8-week cutting phase, which the last weigh-in got me at like 197 pounds and change after work. So I didn't eat or anything. So I was slightly depleted because of no water and food in my system. But I was really at around 200 pounds in reality. So now what I'm doing is in the middle of one of those maintenance phases that I actually learned about from the Renaissance Periodization dieting playlist. The purpose of this right now is I'm eating back up at maintenance to maintain my weight. My goal is for 4 weeks. That's less than the recommendation of how they put it in the playlist. They recommend that your maintenance phases are at least 2/3, if not equal to the length of time you dieted, which means if I want to make the dieting process easier for me and the next round have less diet fatigue, I should go to maintenance for a minimum of 6 weeks, if not longer. For people that are very susceptible to diet fatigue, up to 1.5 times how long you dieted, which meant if you are, for instance, new to cutting and dieting, and if you also did an 8-week cutting phase like I just did, but you are incredibly susceptible to diet fatigue, and let's say you went conservative and you only lost 0.5% of your weight per week, and yet at the end of those 8 weeks you felt like you were starving and you could barely hold your sanity, your maintenance phase, if you still need to lose, might need to be 1.5 times, which means if you dieted for 8 weeks, you might need to go to maintenance for as long as 12 weeks, so that way you're ready to diet again. And that is an incredible tool for giving you periods of time to practice holding the weight. So that, and then you step down again, lose some more weight, hold, step down again. So that way, once you get down to where you want to be, you've already practiced holding and you can stay there. It is a very important tool. Until I had learned about that, I did not have very good success in cuts, is what it came down to. So at the time of recording this, I'm midway through my 4-week maintenance. At the end of that, I want to do round 2 of cutting, which my goal is to go for 8 weeks or to end somewhere in the 185, 190 pound range. I don't need to go below that for the bulk, because if I get there before 8 weeks, I'm going to count myself done. For this first round of my cutting, I actually went faster than is recommended, both because I was at a much higher body fat percentage. I'm guessing definitely several percentage above 20, so minimum 22%. So the more fat you have to lose, the easier it is to lose. But also I have experienced dieting before. So I went faster than the recommendations, which are a limit of usually 1% of your loss of your weight in weight loss per week while maintaining your training. So for me, that would be like 2 pounds a week. I started my cut at 3 pounds of loss per week, and it slowly tapered down, where by the last week I was maybe only losing a pound. That is faster than recommended. So I would not recommend attempting to go that fast, especially if you're inexperienced. My previous cuts beforehand, what I would do is for the first 2 weeks at least, I would start at only 0.5% of weight loss per week, 0.5% of my total body weight per week, because I always flounder a little bit as I'm kind of accepting the fact that I'm being a little bit restrictive. I don't get to have as many liquid calories and such, not as much snacking, and have to be more conscious about what I'm eating. So I flounder and don't have perfect compliance in those first couple weeks. So I found that a useful tool. Start out slower the first 2 or 3 weeks and then ramp up to the steady rate, which 1% works good, or 2 pounds for someone of my size. But for this second phase of cutting, after this diet break or maintenance phase I'm in, I will be going at a max of 1% because I have less fat to lose, starting at 200 pounds instead of 220. So diet fatigue would set in much quicker, and the diet would be much harder if I started too fast. So I will be more closely following proper recommendations that are outlined in the same playlist that I'm going to keep plugging in comments and videos regularly, because I learned a lot from it. Amazing tool. I want to direct you guys towards the tools. I'm going to direct you guys towards the tools and the people I've learned from, because they've already put out content. So as you're wanting to learn more, I can point you to where I've learned from as I'm still building up my database of my content. So kind of double whammy, help you now and put out more stuff to help you later, hopefully. So that's how I want to work. So that is what I've done for this current cut. That's what I've done for the cut so far. What I will be doing for the next portion of the cut, hopefully I've answered the questions there. If you feel there are some questions left unaddressed at any point from this, let me know, comment them. I've been sort of immersed in like the fitness world for so long that I'm not fully in tune with what most people don't know. So if I miss what felt like an obvious thing to discuss, what feels like an obvious thing from your perspective that I should have discussed, it might not be an obvious thing. I might have assumed it's a known thing that doesn't need to be discussed, so it didn't occur to me. So just let me know if there's more questions. I'll be happy to do more follow-ups because I want to make this part of a series where once I'm done with all the cutting, we're going to be slowly bulking up and demonstrating that you can actually bulk and put on weight while maintaining abs. For discussing more of what I actually ate before I actually show you in the app what the app looked like and what foods I ate, going to discuss some important parts about food and satiation and other things. But first, a disclaimer. When I do show you what I ate, this is absolutely not an endorsement to eat unhealthy. It's more of to show you that you can get success without having to stress over eating like a monk and having to only eat salads and super healthy food or anything crazy like that. It's to show that you can get success while still eating somewhat normal, but there are some compromises depending on what you're willing to change or cut out or add in. And I'm not going to discuss in this video long-term health implications for not eating as healthy, because I think you're smart enough to understand that if you eat healthy, there's long-term health consequences. What I'm focusing on are the shorter-term consequences during and shortly after the actual diet. And it revolves heavily around satiation, how satiated you are. So depending on the source of calories determines how filling they are. At the very bottom, you have any form of liquid calorie, whether it's a healthy calorie like a fruit juice or an unhealthy calorie like sugary sodas or alcohol or something. All of those being liquid calories, there's no physical substance for your body to feel that it ate. So they contribute to how many calories you consumed, but they do not contribute to how full and satisfied you feel, which if you're eating at or above maintenance may not be a big deal. But when you are in a calorie deficit, and by definition not eating all the calories your body needs to survive, you are probably going to be left hungrier. At the bottom, eliminating liquid calories so that way you can be more full is a good one. I did not do that for this first part of the cut. Not only did I still consume some liquid calories, I also still consumed some alcohol. So definitely didn't make things easier, but I was stubborn and still wanted to have some, and I was willing to accept the cost of being hungrier for it. The next, like mid-tier, are things that are still actual solid foods but aren't as filling as others. That's junk food. So the reason junk food isn't as filling is multifactorial. One, because it's more processed, you can eat it faster, so less chewing. As you chew something longer, that gives more time for your brain to process I am eating and send signals of satiation. Fast food you can eat quickly, so you don't have a lot of time to chew it, so that's already one strike for it being less filling. Two, it generally has much less fiber than certain other whole foods, so another way it's less filling. Third way it's less filling is fast food typically has high fat and high carbs all thrown together, oftentimes with low protein. High fat and high carbs are both the energy macronutrients that your body responds to that it wants because it needs energy to survive. Calories are an essential nutrient. And when you have high fat and high carb, that is along with high sodium or high sweet. Those are all things that signal your your brain to eat. This is good. So those things combined make hyper palatable foods. So once again, making it more difficult for your brain to tell yourself that you've had enough, that you're full. They override your I'm stuffed sensors in your stomach. Yeah, so those are sort of the three big ways that even though junk food might be solid food, so better than liquid calories, they're solid food, so more filling, but still not the best. The best stuff are, this is where generally whole foods come in. So things you have to chew a lot. So a steak, you have to chew a steak. That takes time. Also lots of protein. Protein is a very filling macronutrient. Or lots of fruits and vegetables. Lots of fiber in those. So once again, might be chewing them longer, but also they take more to digest. So you feel more full. So that's why those healthy foods and those whole foods are typically at the top of the list when people want to diet. And this is, remember, from the perspective of ignoring long-term health implications, which I don't recommend. Just if you are purely focused on getting through dieting now, take that perspective with your food choices on what cost you have for the calories. At the bottom are the calories that do not fill you up at all, liquid. As you move up, you get the solid food, but might be junk food. And then at the very top, you have the most satiating, typically healthy looking diet foods. Just as long as you understand what your choices are and what the costs are for each choice. So for me, both because I can be a bit stubborn, but also because I have experience with dieting and I deliver 2 fast food restaurants. So fast food is easily accessible for me readily for very cheap. A good portion of my diet during this was a lot of junk food. Some of it was healthier. Some of it was healthier stuff like little chicken fajita things that have like some tomatoes and lettuce and only a little bit of cheese and chicken, so more filling for the calories. Others was things like cheeseburgers or burritos or something. So at least they had some protein, but not as filling because you can have both high carbs and high fat. No fiber, easy to chew, easy to swallow, quick. Well, I can drive, so it's still made all those decisions, still consumed some liquid calories. So all compromises that left me hungrier. And if hunger is a big factor for you when you diet, hopefully you have a better idea of what decisions you're able to make. One final thing before I actually start showing you the app and specifics of what I ate at some certain periods is my maintenance calories vary around 4,000 a day, give or take. How the app works is as you input what you eat and as you weigh yourself, it actually calculates what your maintenance should be, and from there it tells you what it recommends, more as it is how many calories you should be eating and protein depending on what options you select. So my maintenance is usually within 10%, so anywhere from like 4,200, 4,300 to a little bit under like 3,700, 3,800. I'm always floating somewhere around there. So that means I'm still dieting. I began the diet at like 2,800 calories a day, and that was targeting 3 pounds of fat loss a week. So it was an aggressive cut for me, but still enough calories for a much smaller person to bulk with. So I do want to point that out. Also, for my size, I had relatively low protein. For me, as long as on my worst days of eating, I had at least 100 grams of protein. 100 grams as an over 200-pound male who lifts regularly. As long as I had at least 100 grams, I was satisfied. Throughout the bulk of my time, I only had between 130 to 160 grams of protein a day. So I am big. I do train regularly. Very experienced lifter, and I was cutting aggressively. I did not have high protein, and I was successful. This cut of mine was not special in that regard. You don't need crazy protein. Now, is that optimal? No, but what does suboptimal mean? Does it mean you only make 99% of the progress? You only keep 99% of the muscle you would have kept if you ate optimal protein, or does it mean 50? When people talk about, oh, but you have to eat this much protein to be optimal, they don't tell you, okay, but what happens if you eat just a little bit suboptimal? And in my experience, and the experience of many others, it doesn't seem to be that costly. And we're talking about other experienced guys. A person I've seen to name drop a lot, Natural Hypertrophy, he also eats relatively low protein in comparison to normal recommendations, and he also believes that he's doing fine. So those are my calories, my protein. There we go. That beef is what we want. So I'm going to bring you over here. Now, first off, you're going to notice there's a lot going on. This is the calculator I mentioned that estimates where I'm at. As I transitioned up over here, I didn't, for a few days, didn't input what I ate, so it didn't have data to use to estimate what my expenditure was as I was transitioning from cutting to the maintenance. But during this period, all over here is when I was cutting. And it was attempting to estimate what my expenditure was. So you can look over that. If you ever decide to try the app, you'll have plenty of time to dig in. Now this is something that it has called a weight trend. I input my scale weight as I actually weigh, but it attempts to even out all the massive fluctuations, because there are fluctuations from what water you're holding, the food going through your system, that all affects what your weight is day to day, which often makes it difficult to assess your weight loss. A neat feature of this is that deep purple line is evening it out, and that light purple line are the actual scale reading. So you can see over the past, we'll do 3 months. So my 2 months of dieting that I actually tracked, you see it steadily going downwards, which was the goal, even though there's massive fluctuations in the weight that I input from the scale. What else is relevant? And this is the scale weight, go to 3 months. You can see just that on its own, very jagged. It can make it much tougher to see what your weight loss is just by looking at that, which is where a lot of people get discouraged. They see these wild fluctuations and they might think they're not really losing any weight at all, but they are. So this is one reason I like this, is it evens you out, so it can make it easier to see the changes, even telling you, like here, estimated your actual weight and loss day to day. So estimated current weight despite fluctuations. So just a lot of stuff to even it out. But anyway, that's not the important part. I'm going to go to food log. Now I ended the cut. You can see those 3 days, the 16th through the 18th, where I didn't track because that was a transition. I was like, I'm not going to worry, but I'm just going to eat more freely for these few days and get back to tracking Monday. But before that, all of these days with that blue circle going partially around were days I was actually tracking. So let's just pick a few random ones. So do May 1st, I'm over a week in. What did I eat? All right. Middle of the night, some oranges. Later on, bananas, fruits. Had some high protein pancakes and sugar-free syrup. Artificial sweeteners, they're not unhealthy. Short version, they're not unhealthy because they're lower in calories. That means I can still have the syrup and have more calories available for more filling foods, like the high protein pancakes I ate. It allows me to be more satiated. Later that night I had some ribs, and it looks like peanut butter and honey. Okay, it's not. Breakfast of high protein pancakes and dinner of some ribs and peanut butter and honey. Seems fine. Let's see, later that week, 5th, what did I have? Nothing all day until later that night. T-bone steak, some whiskey, and marshmallows. Okay. About to go down to bed, it looks. Interesting. Whatever. Another week later, next week, the 10th. What did I eat here? All right. Some ale that was probably, I can't remember exactly what that was, along with some oatmeal. It's like a protein shake and some fruit. I think I put some peanut butter on some bananas and had chocolate covered strawberry. Okay, that sounds nice. Oh, and later that night at work, had some of the chicken fajita pitas that I mentioned. So if you look up here at the top, it says that I ate 2,840 calories, 160 grams of protein, and such. Those blue and orange lines. So this is actually for during my cut at relatively high protein day. I normally didn't eat nearly that much protein. All right, let's go on. Later in the month, 27th of May. Little turkey bites, angel food cake, banana, pudding. All right, that day, chicken drumstick. Very high protein day. Over 220 grams because of all that chicken and such. Some pizza, pudding, a moon cookie or something. It's fine. Ate nearly 4,000 calories a day, so I went over my calories for cutting. Went up basically up to maintenance for that day just because I overate. Cut still worked fine. Let's go into next month. We're closer near the end of what it was. Let's see what I ate. All right. Oh, this is great. Whiskey, popcorn, protein shake. That's good. Oh, cheeseburger, tacos later that night at work. Yeah, that wasn't great. All right. All right, 10th. Yeah, high protein cereal. Looks like some buttered toast. Later that night, whiskey, pizza, Cheetos, ice cream. Oh, root beer floats. I think that's what it was. All right, next day off. Repeat it out. Whiskey, tacos, maybe a burrito or something. Oh, this was a day where I only had 103 grams of protein, so definitely under. But as long as I got that 100, that's why I think I had a protein shake. I just threw in a couple scoops of protein somewhere, did I? I don't know. It was the chicken that night. I think I'll make this last one, so let's see. Lower calorie ice cream, protein powder, so a little protein shake, more whiskey, and then burritos that night. So I mean, like I said, not a monk. Like you saw, I was eating like popcorn and ice cream and pizza and drinking a bit during this. So it wasn't crazy. Yet I still got down to around 200. Now for the next one, I'm going to be way more controlled and eat better because a lot of the same decisions. When I'm leaner, I'm more susceptible to diet fatigue, as I mentioned. But I think that covers it. If you feel that I didn't quite address something because it didn't occur to me or I glossed over it too quickly, just comment and let me know. And I want to make more follow-ups for this to continue with the series, try to answer more of these questions along with direct you towards the sources that I learned from. So that playlist I mentioned, going to want to make that easy to find. It was a tremendous resource to me. And otherwise, stick around after this cut. I want to be showing you guys how I'm going to be bulking with abs, so that way skinny guys that are afraid to lose them, they can see that you can still eat more like you need to, but you're not going to explode and get fat. You just have to eat more in order to put on mass, and muscle is mass. So that's essential. And I also have some surprises that I'd like to work on in relation to the start of the bulk that I'm going to be. I have some surprises I'd like to make for you guys that I think you might like. Will be very practical, I believe. Maybe allow some of you guys to go with me. But anyway, I think that covers it for now. So thanks for joining me in a very plain, everything is like white or gray or incredibly boring scenery. Thanks for joining me. See you guys.